Hey guys, welcome to another Double Tap on YouTube. I'm Stephen Scott, and coming up today, we are going to learn all about the Zero Project Conference. Now, we are going to be covering the event here on Double Tap, on the podcast, and of course here on YouTube as well. Sean Priest will be with me in Vienna, and we'll also be checking out everything that's going on and bringing you all the latest on Access Tech Live over on AMI TV, AMI Plus, and of course here on YouTube. But we are going to kick off today with a bit of an explanation about the Zero Project Conference, what it is, and what's coming up this year. And with us is the perfect person to tell us all about that. Michael Fembek is with me. Michael, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course, Stephen. So my name is Michael Fembek. I am with the ESL Foundation for more than 12 years now, and I'm currently member of the board and CEO of the Zero Project.
Well, first off, it is great to have you back here on Double Tap with us, Michael. We're looking forward to another Zero Project.
Yeah, very good to be here again, and looking forward to this conversation.
So let's start at the beginning, because, of course, many people will be learning about Zero Project, perhaps for the very first time. Explain what Zero Project is and how the conference is part of that.
Yeah, thank you, of course, yeah. So the Zero Project is around in its current form for maybe some 10 or 11 years, and it's a global networking project that discovers, finds, explores, and then communicates innovations that support the lives and the rights of people with disabilities. We created our own process for that that is, as mentioned, around for some 10 or 11 years. In the beginning, of course, there was a little trial and error, but basically what we do since 2012 or 13, and it's an annual process where in the first half of this year, we using a nomination process to find out which innovations are in the eyes of the community that we work with, most innovative, most impactful, and most scalable. So it's a nomination process followed up by a multi-step selection process, always working with the communities of experts with and without disabilities. And in the second half, we're turning to more a communicator and mainly also a conference organizer. So putting these 75 nominations, which we usually have at the end of this process, in the middle of a global conference, is then the job of us, of the team of the Zero Project for the second half of the year. And this conference happens every year in the United Nations offices in Vienna, and we bring here together this year, since we're 2 weeks before the conference, we know that number roughly, maybe for the first time, more than 1,000 participants from almost 100 countries, all coming together to showcase or discuss innovations that support, as mentioned, the lives and rights of people with disabilities, cross-sectoral, all types of disabilities, of course, covered, and all in the spirit of the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities.
And, I think what sets this conference apart, and having the joy of being there last year, Michael, was, to learn about the international nature of this, because there are so many organizations or people we hear from countries like the US, from Canada, from Australia, perhaps the UK, but it's really nice to have a chance to shine a spotlight on some really interesting and emerging services coming out of countries that people might not expect those kind of services to come from.
Yeah, you're completely right, Stephen. And we put, of course, a special emphasis on what you just said. I'm just showcasing some examples of what you just mentioned. We're building strong partnerships, for example, with India. India is, of course, in this current geopolitical situation, interesting per se, but also from the perspective of innovations. As we all know, India is a tech country. On the other hand, it still has one of the poorest populations that exist on Earth. So what this highly developed country and the innovators and tech investors, what is there, and this is really highly developed, what they develop for their own country. And if this works in a rural neighborhood in India, then it also works in other rural neighborhoods in the world, which is not true if you look at the US or Austria. No? If something works in Austria, even if it's a rural neighborhood, is most probably not going to work in Uganda, no? Whereas if it works in India, it will work in Uganda. So this is seeing and describing ourselves and also defining ourselves as a global project. This is most important. So India, for example, is a good example, and is outstanding also with the numbers of participants this year. And there are other countries as well, but our current focus is India, and we also developing strong relationships. Also coming to a Zero Project India conference, which happened already for the first time in September.
Now, you and I spoke around this time last year, and I was talking to you about the fact that one of the benefits here, from my understanding of what I knew about the conference, what I'd read about it, was that it gave people a chance to meet, get together, and share ideas. And I saw that in action at Zero Project last year, and it was just incredible because, there are examples, like you've said, where one thing may work somewhere but may not work somewhere else, but it's putting out almost the seeds of ideas, giving people ideas, or people who are already trying something, the chance to meet someone else who's done it. It must be such a rewarding thing for you to see when everyone comes together and shares these thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, actually it is. Yeah, so I'm always amazed, and I'm mentioning this to our team as well. So I tell them sometimes, look at what we're actually doing. No? So we are some 10 people sitting in an office in Vienna, almost all the time typing something into keyboards, having conversations, speaking into microphones, and seeing people on screens. And in the end, after doing this for weeks and months, we make people really leave their home, leave their office, board planes coming from places like Australia and Latin America and Asia and South Africa to Vienna. So all this happens because of our work, and one moment, meaning 3 days in time, they all meet in Vienna, and they're doing this in increasing numbers. So obviously we're creating a really good impact for people who come to join us in these 3 days in Vienna. Talking about the impact, I don't know if you want to dive into this, what actually we do with 2 people and with people and for people. It's not easy to understand that, but we try always to understand what the impact is, and try to work to do more on this regard. But it's like you said, it's from exchanging ideas to making really practical cooperations, to learn from each other, to inspire each other. There's also getting media attention. So there's a lot of impact involved in what we're doing.
And that is, I guess, the next step, isn't it? Because what happens when people leave Vienna? Because obviously the people who really want to connect with each other will do so. Do you take any part in that? Do you follow up and sort of check what progress has been made?
Yeah, actually we do, but we do not enough. So we are talking about this internally now. So of course things happen and we track things. We do, as almost any conference organizer does, we do surveys of participants and ask them what they liked and did not like, and what they took home and what they did not. And we get some feedback, and there are some feedback loops that we're using, but actually we do think we don't do enough. And there is now one thing that's really interesting, common knowledge, it's artificial intelligence. So what we do for almost 10 years now, we record everything that happens in Vienna. We have all the presentations, we have all the research on these innovations, and we want to use this in the future more, also to give people the opportunity to stay connected with the right people, because this is, if you look at it, of course, a challenge for everyone coming to such a large conference, finding the right people, having a meaningful conversation, and being able to continue that. And with these new technologies, there are opportunities there that we're currently exploring how to use all of this to make people staying connected. And this is, I think, definitely one of the biggest impacts that we could have in the future. I cannot tell you a lot more on this because we're simply exploring this, but we know there's this opportunity here now with AI coming up.
Oh, I mean, just simply summarizing a conversation, so you imagine that, as you're saying, on a larger scale, the potential is huge. There's so much knowledge in that room, so much knowledge being shared in the conference and by people who are there. To be able to bring that together and make it almost searchable, that's an incredible idea. Our role throughout the week is to speak to incredible people, and every conversation I had last year was incredible. Every single one. I had to try and limit myself to the amount of time I was spending with people, because I could have talked to people all day, but I had to speak to someone else and someone else and someone else. So, I feel that it's a really interesting time. We're going to have some really interesting conversations. From our perspective, it's about technology. And in the recent years, technology became a major component of the awardees and the nominees that you were fixating on, because, of course, technology has grown, access to technology is growing, but technology solutions for disabled people is also growing all the time.
Yeah, agreed. We started off with having 4 topics defined, which together with our community we defined as the most crucial ones, which is employment, education, accessibility, and the 4th one, independent living / political participation, with the 4th one covering mostly all the other articles of the convention. But, and this is where this relates to what you just said, we realized that technology, ICT-based solutions are somehow the 5th one, and but not the 5th in a line, but one that is the biggest game changer in all of them. So we for 3 years now, we having ICT-based solutions covered whatever they do, if they're related to education or employment or any other topic. We covered them in their research every year, and it's definitely the biggest game changer. As I think nobody will disagree. Where there's some disagreement, and this is also an interesting conversation happening in Vienna, is how much can you, let's say, leave technology alone to create this change by itself, or has it always to be embedded in participatory processes? I think the jury is out. I think there's a reason to believe that good things happen more or less by itself. If you add something to your smartphone, it's simply there and you don't need a participation process. On the other hand, many things go definitely wrong with using IT, and the digital gaps not always close when a new technology is introduced. Some widen, and especially artificial intelligence has, I think, an enormous potential to go both ways. So we think it's, and we are almost 100% convinced, it's the biggest game changer, and it will continue to be so in these next years. But you really have to be careful, and you really have to include and work with people with disabilities right from the beginning, how they're designed, how to put the usage, and how to develop them.
That's the mantra of the disability community, isn't it? Nothing about us without us. And, that's so key to the development of all these new tools. You've got to have disabled people in the room. And I guess that's another opportunity the Zero Project Conference has, is to instill that and embed that, in the minds of people who are, in some cases, very well-meaning people who are out there to create a tool that can make a difference to a disabled person. But if you don't include disabled people, how's that going to work? And what if the tool is just meaningless in reality because of something you've overlooked because you wouldn't consider it? So that's a really interesting point, and I think a really important part of all this. So you've got obviously a lot of people there, sessions going on throughout the week, and of course keynote speakers as well. Can you tell us some of the highlights of what's coming up?
Yeah, there's a lot of highlights in that, but of new developments. I would like to focus less on name dropping, but on giving some new great content that we're adding. For example, we have a forum only for Accessible Europe, which is maybe on the legislation side the biggest thing currently happening in the European Union. So there is a EU-wide a new law that has to be implemented this year in all national legislations that pushes for public procurement, especially when it comes to IT, to make this fully accessible. So this is one thing that will be big with us. There's another thing is called Technology Forum. So we will have a kind of, we call this more B2B is the wrong word in this in our conference, but we selected 20 outstanding technologies that we think have a high potential when brought together with international high-level decision makers, and we bring them together in half a day. We have revamped, also following up on the question what happens next, what we formerly called Impact Transfer into a transnational program called now Scaling Solutions, where we identify 12 innovations that are, from our experts' point of view, seem to be most scalable from country A to country B. And this is now supported by our old peers from Fundación Descúbreme in Chile, but now also from the German GIZ and from Atos, the consultancy, and we are now bringing in Enable India from India. And as mentioned already, there are this regional focus that we are having. So there will be an India forum, there will be a Japanese forum. So it's there's an Africa related block of sessions. So these are maybe some of the content related highlights that I would like to point out.
And looking outside of the conference itself, because I've been reading a lot about some of the other work that you do internationally as well. You know, Zero Project Conference is not the only event on the calendar, right?
Yeah, you're right. So the other Zero Project conferences that I would like to mention, which will happen this year, the next one in the Zero Project calendar, and I'm coming to others as well, is in Latin America. So early May, there's the Zero Project Latin America conference in Latin America. In September, there's the next Zero Project India conference in Delhi, together with our friends and colleagues from organized with Youth for Jobs. And in December, early December, we have now signed an MOU with SG Enable from Singapore. So there will also be a Zero Project SG Enable forum in Singapore. And apart from that, we also try to substantially support the Accessible Africa, Inclusion Africa conference in May in Kenya. There's the Conference of State Parties, where we'll be very present again as every year this year. And there's AIM Enabling in Washington. So these are the ones that I would consider major events in this year.
And of course, the whole thing is streamed online as well, so people can contribute and take part from their home if they wish to. Not everyone can make it to Vienna, obviously. We'll be covering it as much as we can here.
Thank you for that.
Obviously, yeah, absolutely. And we're so pleased that you invited us, because it's such a wonderful opportunity to share the word. And I think, again, that point about international, we focus so much on, especially in our case, technology from the US and the UK and other countries. It would be so nice to focus on some other countries in the world that are actually doing great work, and shining a spotlight on that is what we are here to do. Tell people how they can get involved, and how they can watch, and how they can find out more about the conference and the project itself.
Yeah, so as you mentioned already, sorry, I have to get rid of my cat.
What's the cat's name?
It's Poopy, and she always finds
Poopy.
the worst moment to enter the room.
That's the way it works. Cats do what they do.
Yeah. So as you mentioned already, the whole conference is live streamed. So almost all of the sessions you can also watch online live. We also record this, and you can watch this then on YouTube. And the advantage of watching this on YouTube, I think it's online an hour later, is that you can also use this auto translation tool of YouTube. No? So you can have already the transcripts or the captions in, I think, more than 90 languages. Is there 1.5 hour or 1 hour later after it's live. So this is for everyone who cannot come to Vienna. In Vienna itself, we're using a lot of technology and measures. So we have a whole team who takes care of accessibility, so that they really try to be as inclusive and accessible as it can be. What we're really pushing for is, again, technology. So we have a really excellent conference platform. So for those maybe 1,000+ people that will be with us in Vienna, there are completely new opportunities to arrange meetings, to ask for support, to ask for assistance, to ask our team and get in touch with our team if people need support. So there's a lot more that we, let's say, every year we try to add some accessibility measures. What we also do, especially because this psychosocial disabilities get more in the focus, and also in the focus of our conference, every year we for the first time we offer a quiet room, so also more areas to retreat and get away from the conference bus. So just to showcase, we try to be as accessible and inclusive as we can be. On the other hand, we always know this is a journey, and we try to be on top of the curve, but it's a journey.
You're obviously finding out about lots of different technologies and services and people who are doing amazing things in the disability community. How do you find the next one? How does someone, say, for example, watching or listening to this, say to themselves, hey, I've got a great idea for a product or something I've developed, and it's not really getting the spotlight that maybe that person thinks it deserves. How do they get it in front of you? How could they become the next Zero Project Award nominee?
Yeah, so this listener of yours, this is exactly the person that we're looking for. So these people that are not connected with us so far, there's a really easy way to connect with us. And we will, after having the conference at a little cool down period, the next call for nomination opens up beginning of May, where we this year are searching for innovations in the area of employment, which includes vocational training and other elements of information transformation and IT, as mentioned, every year. So if you, as a listener, have an outstanding solution, meaning a service, a product, a project, a program, go to zeroproject.org and check out our nomination criteria. We're quite proud that I would say half of the ones that we give an award to out of the 75 are innovations and projects that are really worked locally, that didn't get a limelight so far, and that we really put on a stage. It's only really these three criteria: impact, innovation, and scalability, and it's the community of people with disabilities who judge them in several stages. These are the only thing, and if this works, you can get the limelight of the next Zero Project conference.
Brilliant. Looking forward to the conference. As always, Michael Fembek, thank you so much for being with us on Double Tap.
Thank you, Stephen. Pleasure as always.
Michael Fembek, thank you so much for joining us here on Double Tap on YouTube. Great to have you here. And just a reminder that you can follow events from the Zero Project Conference on the daily podcast. Double Tap is what to search for in your favorite podcast app. Also, you can find us here on YouTube as well, bringing you the very latest through the week, and on Access Tech Live, available on AMI TV, AMI Plus, and on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.